Welcome to the Travel Companion podcast. Last Saturday I was on a panel talking about responsible travel, volunteering, and the future of travel. This was organized by Mahesh of Green People. It's an Indian travel company. One of the things they do is Goat Village. I actually did a podcast with Mani a while ago, which you can still find, by the way, on podcasts.earth/green people. It was a very interesting discussion. So I would like to share part of it, a small part of it. The rest you can listen to on Facebook, and the link is provided in the show notes. So without further ado, here is part of the panel discussions.
How's London?
Oh, London is very quiet on the streets. They just opened up a little bit more, but still, it's nice. I don't take any public transport or anything like that because obviously that's not the safe thing to do here. This country here is UK has been hit hardest in Europe. Over 30,000 people dead, and I see a lot of people that on Facebook forums and discussions, and they don't believe the whole thing. But once you actually start missing people that are around you, then it hits. Then you think, oh, it's actually true. You know what's going on.
Right. I think that's the case with urban India where, we've not faced the effect yet. We've not most of us not gone through what's actually happening. So people are taking it still, I would say, a little easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can really imagine one of my friends' father in Italy committed suicide.
Oh, yeah.
During the lockdown, yeah.
Why?
And
do you know why? Or just depression? Or
I think it was just depression triggered by the whole whatever was happening.
Yeah.
So is London people moving around? They're allowed to move around, or
yes, they're allowed to, if necessary, go to work. If you can't work from home, you're allowed now to exercise as much as you want. So go outside, but you have to keep a distance of 2 meters from everyone, which doesn't always happen. And
Right.
you can see as well people have been locked up and they get a little bit irate with other people on the street. I do myself, especially when there's a bicycle on the footpath, like 30 centimeters away from me. And then what are you doing? Go on the road and stay at least 2 meters away from me. But, just depends. But yeah, people can move around, but that doesn't mean they should really, because, a couple of weeks ago, there were like 11 bus drivers in England dying in 1 week. So that means public transport is just not the way to go, is it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, these numbers.
Yeah.
When you talk in numbers, it becomes scary and real.
Yeah, for some people still don't believe it. I mean, they say it's all a conspiracy and the normal flu kills as many people, but they don't see that it's exponential, the disease. You can, if you have it, you might not even know it, but you can really infect other people, like 10 people around you, and they can infect 10 other people. So you have to be very careful, I think.
Yes. Because India is now ready to, kind of open up, especially Delhi is planning to open up soon.
Yeah.
And because we just can't stay in lockdown is what the government is saying.
Because of the economy, people have to work and eat, right? Yeah.
Yes. It's more on humanitarian grounds, is what they're saying.
So Mini is facing a final panelist who's about to join. Mini is facing some technical issues. One of the team members is helping her out. So meanwhile, I think we can begin. People have joined us. Some people have joined us live on Facebook. So good afternoon and namaste. My name is Mahesh and I'm the co-founder of Green People. So I welcome you all once again to the panel. So what, according to you, is the then and now of travel that you see, especially among Indians, and how much do you think we have deviated up or down on the sustainability graph?
For me, the middle class is what I would use as my target group, and I would say that in 2 decades, we've seen the Indian traveler span, destinations from within India to sort of more easier destinations abroad, like Thailand and Dubai would be there. One London would be more aspirational. And then we saw the emergence of the millennial traveler, the traveler that wanted more immersive experiences, that wanted to travel to countries that nobody else had traveled to, so they would do Japan and China, and such. Even within China, there was a huge population of Indians that wanted to see it but they carried their theplas and chanas with them, So, but there was that desire to see and explore something beyond just Thailand and Dubai. And till 3 months ago, I thought people wanted more immersive, more experiential travel, more sustainable travel, places that people hadn't been to before, which were connected to nature. So I would say there has been, this is a very wide discussion, so I would just leave it at this and have the others also put in their bit, and then I'll come back with the finer nuances of what I'm trying to say.
What kind of potential do you see among, some of the lesser known destinations and rather lesser explored landscapes in India?
So yes, I've been to the smaller cities, and I've realized one thing, that there is something to be, because we are such a vast country of such diverse geography, of culture, of language, and of visuals, from desert to sea to land to villages to urban fairy tale castles. We've got everything going. I have traveled the length and breadth of what is traditional tourism within India, and those that are smaller areas. I've been an avid trekker, so off the offbeat destinations where I've stayed in little village homes, with barely beds to share and all of that, and I found so much more joy. And I've always seen the potential of people wanting those kind of experiences, but not knowing how to access them, and possibly the paucity of people trying to produce such experiences for travelers like me.
Do you think that millennials are a better lot and a more evolved generation or segment of travelers?
Being different travelers when we are in India, and the minute we get on the flight, we become different travelers. I think some of it, unfortunately, goes down to what do you think you can get away with. So sometimes in India, you can get away with, some improper behavior or not being concerned for environment or, people around you. So that attitude has to change. And I think it has changed a lot, just like what Minnie was mentioning. I think we have a lot of travelers who are evolved. And I don't think this is so much a factor of whether you're millennial or whether you're a particular age group. I think it comes with, been there, done that. Once you go to a few places, you get smarter. And at least those of you who want to absorb and learn the good things, you do it. So sometimes you have millennial travelers who behave just as badly as their parents, if I can say that. So that's one part of it.
How safe is India for solo women travelers, in your opinion?
I'll be honest that I personally haven't done too many solo travels. I usually, hook up with friends, travel to a place, meet people, and then, go around with them. But I have loads of friends who are influencers and travelers who are women who are doing solo travel. What they feel is that, it's part of the country where they feel safe. And there are certain parts they don't feel safe. So like a Northeast is their go-to place. Like, they want to go to Arunachal, they want to go to Nagaland, they want to go to Mizoram, and solo is okay. Kerala is okay. Goa is fine. But then there are parts where they don't feel safe at all, especially during the public transport. Like in the bus, they are very, kind of alert, and they don't know what's going to happen. Hills, again, they're very comfortable with. So it's actually, in India, it's parts, and, so maybe a Rajasthan might not be on their bucket list as a solo traveler, but Northeast would be. So I think it's very dependent on where, and also the homestay. So a lot of us have started liking, like Minnie also said, experiential travel. You want to absorb the place. And so homestays is a big thing. Airbnbs are a big thing. And these homestays, we feel safe in certain parts of the country, not everywhere. So, when somebody's traveling to Delhi, I probably would not recommend, come solo. But somebody's going, say, for example, to Munnar or Varkala, I would say, please go ahead. As travel influencers and bloggers, I feel put out information instead of just putting out pretty pictures of how beautiful the place is. Show the reality. What is the real thing? What are the good homestays that you stayed in? What was your experience? What are the hostels which are, accommodating? So there is a lot actually the social media community can do by portraying the reality of the land, rather than just showing a pretty picture of your back against a sunset, So I feel at this stage, travel influencers are even more important in the sense for spreading the right information. So a lot of responsibility lies with them, and I feel and I hope that they do the right thing. Instead of just encouraging travel again once things get better, to do it responsibly, and also to promote travel in a way where it is not about checking a bucket list, but actually spreading experiences.
Peter, I'll move to you. You have traveled extensively, and while traveling, you have volunteered extensively. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, you talk about millennials, but actually, I think the next generation is more important, which is the Generation Z, and that makes up 1/3 of the world population, and the world population is 7.7 billion, so that's 2.5 billion. And there have been a number of surveys, if you believe in surveys, that is, of course, but there was like 59% of those Gen Z generation. They said, well, they want to travel and want to give back to the world. They want to do something. They think more about their environmental impact. So according to the United Nations World Tourism Organization, they say that, well, before the virus, that was, of course, they said 1.6 billion people would be traveling annual. That means that of the Gen Z generation, that's only one part, obviously, but that means more than 200 million would actually travel to give back and really, think about the environment, think about their impact, and also feel that they should really do something like volunteering. And I think that's quite important. So that's a massive market, I would say. When I did it myself, that's a while ago. Obviously, I'm not even a millennial traveler at this point. I was in Kenya at that point. I was staying in a hostel in Nairobi. There was as a matter of fact, a post on a notice board just saying, hey, do you want to help build a clinic in Masai Mara? It was one of the nature reserves. The guy was an Australian guy who did that. And I saw the notice together with a Canadian. We went there. The guy had no budget whatsoever, so we had to pay for our own food. We slept in my own tent. And we just were a couple of weeks there. But you really immerse yourself in the culture, which was amazing, really, and you really see how people live and how they deal with tragedy. It was one day they were like drinking and eating with the people there, and the next day there was a little girl that just died out of nowhere. She just died, and they were all crying for one day, but the next day it was like they went back to normal, like nothing has happened whatsoever, and it just makes you think, well, that's totally different from what we have in our society. So I think you really, if you volunteer and you do it in the right way, you can really, I think, you can help change lives. You really immerse yourself into the culture. Obviously, there's also, bad volunteering as well. And it was very recently pointed out by author of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling. She said that orphanage tourism, for example, is really, really bad. And I've heard this before as well on Twitter in one of the talks there. It seems like that's 80 to 90% of the orphanages worldwide. They actually have a living parent. Most of them are unregistered. They run like a business, and they drive families apart. They make children very vulnerable to abuse. So that's something that you should not do. And I'm very sorry for that 10% that actually do it the right way, but there's a very high chance that it can go wrong as well. Then if you look at it can be done in the right way as well. I spoke to a lady from Argentina, Ann and Palm in Argentina. They do whole groups coming in to do volunteering, and they fix primary schools. They help the rural communities. They pick up garbage from the beaches, and at the same time that gives them, those groups, makes them stronger between themselves. So it's not just millennials, it's not just Gen Z, it's all over the place. Everyone really wants to do it, and it really gives you a better experience and a much more satisfying experience if you travel, for me at least. Yeah.
Also, a lot of mid-age people who want to get out of their corporate cycle are actually going for options like these.
It's not just millennials, it's basically all the generation. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people that want to travel, and especially nowadays, because you look at impact on the environment. If you just go somewhere and you stay for a longer period of time, and at the same time you can do something good, it doesn't matter where you go. If you go to Ibiza, you can clean up the beaches as well. There's groups there as well that do that. And I think it's really really good, and you get in contact with the locals as well. So it's not just like, you're a tourist and you go to a place and you look at the place from your window, from a minibus. You actually really, you immerse yourself with the local culture. And I think you become a traveler, not a tourist. I think that's the difference between being a tourist and being a traveler, that you don't just go to a place where you all inclusive, you eat in your hotel, you go to the beach, you go back to your hotel, you eat there again. No, you actually go out and, you give back to the community. You spend money in the restaurants that are there. You make use of the local tour guides if you make use of a tour guide. And if you can help out at the same time to do something good for the environment, hey, awesome.
What's going to happen? Supply chains are broken all over the world. And you're going to see more local restaurants when they eventually open in a post-lockdown era. And it's not just in India, all over the world, depending more on local supplies, because it's going to be a while before you get ingredients from halfway around the world with high carbon footprints. So what you're going to see is chefs, for instance, working with local ingredients. So you're going to see an Italian restaurant in India, for instance, working with local ingredients, maybe using cilantro instead of basil in a dish if required. So I think this COVID crisis might actually be an opportunity for farm folk. So that's one thing I wanted to share.
What grows around your geographical, where you stay, it's best to eat what grows around you. I mean, there are lots of theories that have been written about it. And just likewise, I think everyone is getting very, very tempted to go to places where you are actually seeing the manifestation of this farm to fork concept. For example, I have 2 resorts in Uttarakhand. One is Solitude by the riverside and one Solitude by the Himalayas. They started out at these homestays, but they have their own fields. And more and more people want those kind of holidays, but they also want that comfort. Okay, they don't want to really rough it out. So while all this is great, we have to also look at the other side, and maybe Ashwin and Peter will be able to give us more inputs on how we can make it sustainable from both sides. So how do we make it sustainable for businesses to operate like that? Okay, where we can give the modern traveler the comforts that they're seeking and yet be able to just borrow from the ground around them.
Peter, do you have something to add?
No, I think it's very clear. One thing I should say is that you might, sustainable travel, environmental travel is important, but at a certain point, for a lot of people, it will come down to the cost. And if the cost is prohibitive, so if it's just more expensive than you would normally spend, then a lot of people just say, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm looking at every penny that I have to spend. So you really have to make it the same price, or perhaps put a little bit more on top of it. But you have to make very clear where that money goes. And that's one thing I really would like to say, because there's a lot of people that talk about, traveling in the right way, but when it comes down to it, they say that. They think, well, this is actually cheaper and this is cheaper. Maybe I should go with this one. So, make it affordable for people to travel in the right way. That's what I would say.
Can I just add something here, Mani? For example, it's cheaper to stay, fat, and it's more expensive to eat fit and eat more organic, because till date, I mean, organic has this great premium over it. Okay, it's, even though it's borrowed from the soil near you, and we're growing our own food, it's more expensive because it has to come to us from an organic source, all marketed and packaged, and we end up paying so much more to eat healthy than to eat a McDonald's burgers.
A lot of people now who might probably be out of a job might say, okay, you know what, let's look at farming. Maybe you might have people going back and saying, okay, I have this plot of land, and this could be across. It could be someone in a high-paying job. It could also be a migrant worker, for want of a better word, who's gone back, who needs to say, you know what, I already had this patch of land, and I was working in a not so happy environment in Mumbai or Delhi. I can actually try and work this out to do something. And I think the role of a lot of organizations is to help these people produce the right produce which restaurants need. And if there's some way we can bridge that, I think it'll be a win-win.
So like Minnie said, it's easier to be fat than eat healthy. So it all also boils down to, like Peter said, cost. A lot of us who are younger, who's traveling, is always looking at the cost. I am a vegetarian now. In the last 2 months, that's a big change that has happened to me, that I've become a vegetarian. And I'm trying to eat only local. I'm not buying pretty much anything processed. So hopefully people like me who are mindful are going to make that change. There could be two ends to it. One is people going mindful, being consuming local, helping the communities. The other could be that, we only have this one life. We don't know what's going to happen again to this world, and let's just go all out. But cost is a big implication, like Minnie and Peter said. We have to get local, good, hygienic stuff available at a cost which is affordable for Gen Z, it's called. So yeah.
So that was part of the panel discussion. I'll put all the links in the show notes. You can find the latest news on podcast.earth. And thank you very much for tuning in. And please do so next time as well for the latest news on sustainability and responsible travel. Thank you.